Hello, and welcome to an intro to Anthro with two humans. I'm human number one, John McCray.
And I'm human number two, John Lehr.
And this is the podcast where we reassess what it means to be human. And John, I feel like we're on our way at this point. I feel like the ship has left the dock and the journey has begun.
We can basically hook up AI from this point on and have it handle the show.
Yeah. I mean, maybe. Actually, that might be a little too quick to jump into that.
Okay.
Maybe a ship isn't the best metaphor for what we're doing. Maybe we're more like an old school bus, that you see just.
We're Buckminster Fuller's three-wheeled car that crashed at the World Fair.
Yeah. All right. So the title of today's episode is "It's Not You, It's Me: The Complicated Relationship Between Rats and Humans."
Oh, this is so perfect. This is so perfect because today, part of my duties in the morning is to go out and pick up the dog poop in the backyard. I do that every day and I saw something. I thought it was a piece of poop, but it turned out to be a rat's head severed from its body. Oh, just a rat's head in my backyard. And I was like,
oh my
stunned.
God.
I didn't know what to do. I assume my dog had gotten to it. Ooh, it was just horrid.
Wow. But do you think it was the dog, or do you think it was like a falcon or something?
We have a lot of wildlife here, so it could be a red-tailed hawk. There's a lot of those out here, so it could be, it could be anything. I don't know, but it was just the head, no body in sight.
Oh God! I was just reading. I think this morning or yesterday, that an owl escaped from the Central Park Zoo in New York, and they were worried that. Yeah, they were worried that he wouldn't be able to survive, and they said he's been living on rats.
Yeah. Well, didn't Chicago at one point buy a bunch of falcons to live in the downtown to?
I think so.
Cut back on the rat problems. Apparently, you can still see a falcon every now and then up on a skyscraper. From time.
So what'd you do? Did you go get like a tissue or something?
I just used the pooper scooper and just put it in with the poop and I can't. God. Oh God.
Yeah.
Ooh. So anyway, I thought that was a good sign for today's episode.
It's an omen. It's an omen that we need to discuss this.
Yes.
So
yes, we do.
What really started me thinking about this topic was I recently read an article in the news where New York City had put out an advertisement for a rat czar. They were trying to hire a rat czar to take care of the rat problem.
Yeah.
And for those interested, it pays up to $170,000 a year.
I do it. Do it. Rat czar? Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Nowadays everybody works 2 full-time jobs, so I'll just take that job on too.
Yeah, I was going to say 170,000 probably doesn't get you much even in New York.
No, God, no. In New York, you'd be living on Staten Island, maybe.
I also find it funny that the czar thing is still being used. Like anytime they hire
I know.
a municipal or government employee to take care of a problem, remember, like we had the drug czar.
Yeah, I know. What is that? Suddenly we tap into this Russian what is that? Royalty.
I don't know. And considering what happened to the real czar, I'm not sure if that's like the expectation you want to set up, set up for people.
Him and his family, except for the daughter who got away. I know.
I saw
episode.
The Disney film.
Yeah.
But anyway, apparently Mayor Eric Adams of New York City hates rats. Mm-hmm. And I have to agree with it. I don't live in New York City. I've never voted for Eric Adams. I'm not endorsing Eric Adams. I don't know Eric Adams at all. But I will say that I agree with him that I hate rats.
Yeah. Almost everybody does. I think it's just certain people can stomach it enough. Like I'm the guy who, when there have been rats, I've had to trap them and dispose of them. Ooh. My wife can't even, like, this conversation, she'd be screaming just at this conversation.
Oh yeah. I remember before we moved from LA back in like 2008. Remember there was that rat house in Pacific Palisades. Do you remember that?
No.
It was a big story then that this young couple had bought a house in Pacific Palisades.
Fancy area.
Yeah, very expensive house. And beautiful, like, lots of palm trees near the beach. And
I know where this is going.
They're looking outside, and they see rats out in their driveway in between their house and the house next door. And they started to investigate, and there was two elderly sisters who had been feeding rats.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Oh my God! What was that Michael Jackson movie with the rat?
Ben, and then you had Willard's rats and everything. Yeah.
Jesus Christ!
It was an awful story, and it went on because this young couple tried to get, the city to get involved, and the city was like, well, we have to give them notice, and it's like they were buying dog food and feeding the rats.
God.
Yeah.
So Jesus.
Not everybody hates rats, I guess. But Eric Adams, I guess in 2019, he was the borough president of Brooklyn, and he held a press conference where he called all the press out, and he showed them a $400 bucket trap to kill rats. And he was saying, if this works, I'm going to take this fight to City Hall, which is what he did. I guess he kind of rode the rat issue. You find your issue.
That's a good issue. That's like potholes for every other city. New York. I mean, Jesus. I was just in New York City, and we were in the subway waiting to get on the subway, and I did not see a rat scurrying down the subway tracks, which you almost always do.
Yeah.
So maybe it's working.
I saw you can go online and people do videos of like looking through a store that's closed, and you'll see rats running around inside the store or restaurant.
God.
And there was one just recently, as I was reading up for this episode, of like a guy sleeping on the subway, and there's a rat running around his head.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
No, that's wrong.
And somebody's filming, and I'm like, please be a good human and go over there and wake the guy up and say there's a rat. Don't film it. You know what I mean? Or like film it for a little bit, but then go over there and wake him up. I mean, it was horrible to watch.
Oh my God.
So another thing is that during COVID, apparently there were a lot more rat sightings in New York because when the restaurants closed, the rats didn't have food, and the rats were just kind of out getting a little hungry, and they were out in the alleys and becoming more visible. Because with rats,
I think that was true here in LA too.
Really?
Yeah. I think there were more rats.
Yeah, because with rats, it's all about food and sex. That's why that drives the rat.
Finally, I can agree on something with the rats.
Yeah, it's in his book, Rats. Robert Sullivan says that rats will have sex up to 20 times a day. And a male rat will have sex with as many female rats as possible.
Well, yeah. I mean, I know some rats. I went to college with some rats who did that.
Yeah. He says if you are living in a city, which you are.
Yes, I am.
And I am as well.
Yeah.
Then you are most likely in close proximity of two rats having sex at any time.
Well, one of them fucked his head off. And,
You're going to have to put some wildlife cameras out there in the backyard to see.
He had sex in it, so much sex his head popped off, apparently.
What a way to go. What a way to go.
Yeah, you're right.
The other thing is a single pair of rats, just two rats, can produce up to 15,000 offspring in a year.
No way. Yeah. That is just ridiculous.
And then you imagine once those 15,000 come out, you know, this is, they don't care who they're doing it with. So it's like
brother, sister, uncle, cousin, mom, child, everybody's, it's just Caligula times 10.
Trying to make it very, very ancient history.
I'm trying.
The classics. Put it to something we could all like identify with. So again, I have to say, in complete admission here, I hate rats.
Yeah,
rats give me the willies. They get heebie-jeebies. Yeah, I just can't stand them. But the more I read about them, I couldn't stop.
Fascinating. Well, they're so smart.
Yeah,
they're so smart. You ever read the Rats of Nim?
Oh yeah,
Mrs. Frisbee.
I love that one. Yeah,
that was a good book.
I
love that book too. Tried to get my kids to read it. No interest. They were like, "This is stupid, Dad." Yeah,
I think it was a simpler time or something. What was it? The Mouse and the Motorcycle. Did you ever read that one too?
Oh, my daughter loved that one. So
did she?
One I got. Yeah, she did. That one she loved.
I never could understand how the motorcycle actually ran.
Yeah, you just got to give him that one.
I'm sorry I brought that up because now I'm going to have to go in and research it. I may have to read it again. It used to bother me. Like, how is it? How is he zipping along?
You as a little boy, just pondering it.
Can't suspend my disbelief.
No.
Are there any animals that give you the heebie-jeebies? I've worked in a lot of restaurants, for example.
A lot of restaurants, and cockroaches is probably the one that bugs me the most.
Really?
I just don't like them.
Yeah,
I don't like myself a cockroach.
Just one, or is it when they're a bunch of them together?
Well, in any number at all. I know they're important. I know they eat a lot of dead skin. I know they're like the vacuum cleaners of humanity. They eat all of our dead skin.
Really?
If it weren't for cockroaches, apparently we'd have a lot more dust in our houses because dust is all our skin that's flaking off, or most of it is.
Yeah.
So they do important work. I know that, but I can't stand those antennas and God, I just don't like them.
Oh, how about you guys? Did you ever see that? What was it? It was a mountain lion. Because you lived in the neighborhood where you used to be, right?
P-22, he just passed away. Never saw him. Just saw pictures of him. But no, he was he was widely loved.
Really?
Everyone loved P-22. Yeah, we couldn't believe that there was a mountain lion living in L.A. My friend who just moved here goes, "What's wrong with L.A.? Everybody loves this mountain lion who would kill him if it even was." I was like, "That's L.A., baby. That's L.A.
Yeah,
that's L.A."
Yeah, because he would come down out of the park, right, and go into the neighborhoods and everything.
As he got older, he started to come down more because he couldn't hunt, coyotes and deer. So that's when things kind of started going south. In fact, his last 2 meals were 2 chihuahuas that he ate.
That was that's it.
And then he died. They had to put him down because he was he was accustomed to lived Chihuahua. Very long time. And I love dogs, but I got to say with P-22, I was like, you know what? Give him a couple of Chihuahuas. The guy's been living by himself in Griffith Park for 14 years.
When we were living up in Santa Fe one time, the dogs were kind of going crazy. I was in the house and I'm looking out the window trying to figure out what the dogs are going crazy about. And I realize as your eyes kind of get adjusted to what's outside or whatever, there was a bobcat in the tree outside our house looking in at us, in our living room of all right, you guys.
I see you. Go to sleep. Yeah. You'll be fine.
It's and I remember just the thought of oh my God, it's looking at us. And then, oh my God, the doggy door is open. Right. And I just had to run over there. I'm being attacked. Watching a football game or something in your living room and suddenly a bobcat jumping on you in the couch just horrified me.
Oh, nasty.
So again, thinking of kind of setting up what we're looking at today. So dogs were domesticated about 30,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And cats were domesticated 10,000 to 12,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Clearly.
Yeah, they still haven't caught on and what the rules of the game are.
Yeah, they don't get it.
Dogs have had a 10,000-year head, 18,000-year head start.
Dogs have thrown in the towel. They're like, all right, but cats are still like, you know what? I can still hunt.
Yeah. So, but I'm like, rats have been there right along with us. You know what I mean? For like tens of thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands of years.
Really?
Rats have been there with us too. I mean, it's not the same relationship. It was only in the 1800s that we started to domesticate rats. But I'm like, we've had a shared history with rats. So my question is, why are we still so uncomfortable with them? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it is true. Why are they vermin? Well, they scurry around. They hide. I don't know. And then, of course, the bubonic plague.
Yeah.
Now they're associated with, any kind of disease. And,
right.
I mean, they killed a lot of us. The fleas on them killed a lot of us, I guess.
Yeah. But it's like, I don't know, do we still like squirrels? I remember you had a squirrel problem at your house that was eating your apricots or something.
Yes, he was. And he won.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, you're right. Squirrels we think are cute, but they're out in the light of day. We see them jumping and they don't bother us. They don't come in our house. That's it.
Right.
Rats come in our house, and that's wrong.
Yeah.
And they must be eradicated because of that.
Yeah, we'll have to consider that later on when we kind of talk about like what it is about rats. But I like that. That's a good point, I think, that they're in our space. So let's just get a little background on rats historically. In the United States and Europe, we're dealing with like two types of rats. We have the black rat.
Oh, boy.
Which is Rattus rattus.
Oh, God.
And DNA research, this just came out too, DNA research from the Max Planck Institute, who we've discussed before when we talk about Neanderthals, showed two migrations of black rats into Europe. One was during the Roman period, and then after the Crusades, there was another migration of black rats that came back with the ships and everything from the Crusades.
Oh, God.
And it's interesting because those two migrations weren't related genetically to each other. In other words, it wasn't one family that had come and stayed with the Romans. There was like an entirely new migration of the black rats, which is also called like
total fresh gene pool to make sure that they were going to get a stronghold in Europe.
Right. And that's the one that we usually talk about when we talk about the black rat. That's the one that's associated with the plague. It was the fleas on the black rat carried the plague. And then when the black rat would go into like cities or villages, and then the rat would die. And then, of course, the fleas had to go somewhere. So they would go onto humans. And then after that, the plague kind of morphed and was able to be transferred from person to person. Yeah.
Oh. God.
But the black rat is also known as the ship rat or the roof rat.
Yes, black climbers. They call them black climbers sometimes, don't they?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I had a guy, an exterminator at my house who once said it might be black climbers. And I was like, Jesus, don't say that.
Oh, God, that's awful.
Don't say that. Black
that's
climber.
Awful. Yeah. Yeah. But in Europe and also over here in the States, the black rat was eventually pushed out by the brown rat or the Rattus norvegicus, the Norway rat.
Norwegians.
And the black rat, yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
I'm going to Norway in about a month.
Are you really?
Yeah. I'll blame them for our rat problem.
Keep an eye out for it. Apparently, though, historically, people always blame the rats on like other people. Like I think in Ireland they called it the French French rat. You know, it's one of those things.
Fair. That's fair. I think everybody loves to blame the French, and they ask for it. They really ask for it.
It's kind of one of those things like you do with venereal disease. It's always somebody else's.
Yeah, that's right.
The English kiss or something. You know what I mean? It's always something else. But now the black rat's been pushed, just small colonies of black rats, usually along the coast. And they think that, like you were saying, they live like in trees in Los Angeles.
Yes. There are a lot of rats living in trees in Los Angeles and in ivy. There's a lot of ivy in Los Angeles. And they live in both of those. And if you come to Los Angeles, you'll see a lot of palm trees with sheet metal, like a 6-inch piece of sheet metal wrapped around the tree. And that's to keep the rats from climbing up because their claws scrape on they can't get purchase on the sheet metal, so it keeps them from climbing up into the trees, apparently.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Holy crap. Yeah. So apparently they love climbing. And that's why they used to get on ships.
They love it. I'll see one, it'll be a nice morning. You'll be outside having your coffee. And every now and then I'll see one scurrying across an electrical wire.
Oh, God.
Ooh. God, sons of bitches.
But the one we see most often now, like I said, is the brown rat, the Norway rat. And it's larger than the black rat, and it's usually more aggressive. And it will push out competitors. And this is a rat that, would go on ships and it'd like get off on islands and then go in and destroy all the native, animals on the island or something like that. It's the brown rat.
Well, I was in the park across the street from my house not too long ago with my friend, and he brought peanuts to feed the squirrels. And he threw the peanuts down, and a squirrel came up and started to eat it, and he kept feeding the squirrel. And then all of a sudden, out of a bush came a rat. And the rat scared the squirrel off and grabbed the peanut. And I was just like, that's L.A., baby. That's L.A. right there. I was just like, yep.
Yeah. You just saw it. A living metaphor right there. It's tough out here. It's tough out here. So the brown rat is usually about 16 inches long.
Oh, I know it well.
And weighs 1 pound. And but everybody always talks about like, oh, those rats they're as big as cats or something like that.
No.
And all of the experts say like you will not have a rat that big. But it's true. You just see it and in your mind, some kind of primal fear says that thing's as big as a cat.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember working in a chicken restaurant in
I remember those days.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there was like an old rat in there. The restaurant had rats, of course. Every restaurant has rats, I think.
Yeah.
And there was a rat in there called Old Whitetail. Legendary Old Whitetail. He had been there for years. People had seen him. And they were like, Old Whitetail's as big as a cat, And I remember one time I was a dishwasher. I was only 14 years old. And I'm washing under the dishwasher, and the rats used to come and look out of the holes in the wall at it.
And they look at you.
I know. Oh, it was awful. They just kind of poked their heads out like, hey.
Maybe Old Whitetail was a possum.
Well, I saw
possums.
I
did.
I finally saw him. Of like just this, like you could hear his feet on the floor. Old Whitetail. And he was all white. And I swear to God, at that time, I did think he was as big as a cat. But, the experts say there's no way they can do that.
My God.
I think it's just because you're always like squatting down and you're always like vulnerable. You're under a dishwasher and here comes Old Whitetail,
Oh, God. I'm so sorry that happened to you.
He was not afraid of me at all. Like he's like,
never told
I'm
me that story. Man. Yeah.
Awful. It came up like when I was researching this. I remember Old Whitetail, legendary.
Whitetail. Jesus,
he was like Fang or something. Like an old, like the legendary.
I saw a coyote once walking down a street in LA at night with 2 cat legs sticking out of its mouth, and it looked at me like, "What? What are you gonna do about it?"
What would you do at that point?
I got in my car and I drove away. He was absolutely right.
2 cat lanes.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep.
So the brown rat arrived in Europe. Again, the black rat came through first, Roman time. Then it came through in the 1100s with the Crusades, when the people came back from the Crusade. The brown rat arrived later. I was surprised at how late it arrived, like in the 1700s. In 1727, It came across the Volga River. It was in England in 1728. Norway, 1762. It didn't even come to Norway first, but people just called it the Norwegian rat,
Blame it on the Norwegians.
Yeah. Yeah. When are they going to do about it?
And then when did it come over here?
It arrived in America in 1775. Which is the start of the American Revolution.
God, the English brought it over. God damn it.
But now it's like on every single continent that humans have ended up. That's how fast it's expanded.
Unbelievable.
And they think that probably at some point when we go into space, most likely some rat is going to find its way onto a spaceship and go up.
Cockroaches, both of them. Mm-hmm.
Let's 1 year life expectancy. I'm just throwing out facts about the rat now.
Huh. Yeah, I would have thought longer.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe when you have them as a pet or something, they live longer. They're omnivorous. They'll eat anything, anything, and they must constantly chew to wear down their incisors.
Right. So that's why they never stop growing.
Right. God, they're thigmophilic, which means that they like touch. So, usually a rat will run along the side of a building the same way that it. And even if people remove the building, sometimes a rat will still make that same path or something because they're just so used to it. Yeah.
I can relate to that. I like touch. I'm omniphilic. What is it? Omniphilic?
Later on, we'll watch you as you try to leave your room there and see you kind of walking along the walls trying to get out.
It feels good. I like to know where I
am. They're wary of new things in their environment, which makes it hard to trap them because you put a trap in there.
They're like,
and they're smart enough to know. Yeah. And they don't want to go in there and grab anything from it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Wow.
And they say that there's been studies done where it looks like they pass along information about the environment to their offspring. Yeah.
They talk to them or genetically?
Somehow or communicate it somehow to them. But that's one of the elements of culture.
Yes,
passing it on to your kids,
Wow.
So let's see. They also, this is frightening. They can collapse their skeletons and slip into like little tiny holes in buildings or cracks,
or underneath cracks in doors.
Yeah.
I remember I had an exterminator and he's like, I bet he's getting in under that. And it was like a 1-inch space. I'm like, what? He's like,
yeah. Wow. Wow. In addition to the plague, they also, they can pass on typhus.
What's
salmonella.
What's
typhus
typhus?
Is I think it's like it gives you like a really bad fever as well. You can die from typhus as well.
Is that Typhoid Mary? Is that the same thing? Typhus?
That was typhus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. And that one's actually passed by fleas as well. Fleas on the rats.
Unbelievable.
The other ones that they pass on, like salmonella, listeria, leptospirosis, that's just by them getting into our food supplies and just like
pooping, feces,
pooping and peeing. Yeah. And so that's how that one. And then there's also like apparently 14,000 cases of rat bite fever every year.
Oh no! Oh my God! So it shouldn't have been cat scratch fever. It should have been rat bite fever.
Right.
Oh my God!
Doesn't have the cachet of like cat scratch fever.
No.
But,
rat bite fever. Dun dun dun. Wow. Rat bite fever. So what is that?
So again, it's like terrible fever that you get, obviously, but it comes from if they have it and they bite you and it gets infected, I guess.
It's like rabies. They just have it and they pass it on.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Ironically, though, they don't pass on rabies.
What?
Believe it or not. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. That was one thing. So they said of all of these, they don't pass on rabies.
Interesting.
There's one article I read, which I got to give it to them. That's okay. That's one. We'll put that as a check in the positive column.
But right. Yeah.
And then as far as plague goes, in the U.S., most plague is passed by prairie dogs.
You gotta be kidding me.
No.
The bubonic plague is passed by prairie dogs?
Most cases that we have now of the plague in the U.S. are west of the Rockies and passed by prairie dogs. Coming in. Yeah.
How did the prairie dogs get the fleas?
I have no idea, but they're
the Spaniards. I bet it was the Spaniards.
I don't know. There's the
conquistadors.
If you ever go to Lubbock, Texas, they have a prairie dog village there with a small wall around it, and you can go there early in the morning and watch the prairie dogs wake up. But after reading that article that they may be carrying plague, I will not be going back to see the prairie dogs.
I'll just see that on the old YouTube.
So let's go. So DNA shows that the brown rat separated from other rat species sometime between 2.9 million years ago and 900,000 years ago.
Wow.
So it's been, original habitat was in China, Mongolia, and Siberia. So again, they've made it from China, Siberia, Mongolia, came into.
Which way do you think they came over the mountains? Like, how did they get there?
Well, they came for some reason. I guess it seems like they came through Europe first, and they came here through the ships.
Jesus.
Some other information. Archaeologists have found, and this is about mice, but it just kind of shows you how long mice or any rodent has been dealing with the U.S. They found mice in Homo erectus sites from 700,000 years ago.
Wow.
Like the remains of mice.
Wow.
Yeah. And there's also archaeological evidence of brown rats in like trash piles from 7,000 to 9,000 years ago in China. So again, they've been here with us. They just go wherever humans go.
I mean, erectus. I mean, they've been around. They've been around as long as we have. Yeah. With us the whole time. They're like our version of the crocodile bird that, eats the thing. But they don't do us any good, do they? They don't do us anything. What do they do for us?
That's kind of what I kept thinking about this whole thing. They really don't start doing anything to us until we start doing like medical research and using them in the 1800s. But that's not until that was like the last 150 years. So we had probably 900,000 years of living with rats who haven't done anything for us.
Well, I'm sure we ate them, right? We probably ate them.
Right. That's what they look at in the Hobbit cave in Indonesia. That's where the Homo floresiensis lived. It was like, and the Homo floresiensis lived from like 700,000 to 50,000 years ago. And they excavated a cave on that island where they lived. And they saw it was filled with rat bones. Filled with rat bones. And they don't know if the rats were scavenging or being eaten in there.
Yeah, but it sure sounds like they were being eaten.
Yeah.
Just like
because that's what
hot wings. That's like
that's probably more the paleo diet. The paleo diet wasn't you were out eating like a mammoth or something. Paleo diet's like you were eating grub worms and
absolutely. I mean, mammoth. I mean, that would take like an army of us to kill a mammoth.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So let's just culturally some different things about like the rat as part of the Chinese zodiac, which you go.
I remember the year of the rat wasn't too long ago. I think we're in the year. What are we in now? The year of the bunny or something? I think we're in the year of the rabbit.
I don't know what it is. I'll have to do some research on that. Again, in China, they found it like 4,100 years ago. They found some sites with some rat bones in there. Rats are worshipped in parts of India. There's the Karni Mata temple in Rajasthan, India, where it's just filled with rats. You can go online and look at it. They feed the rats there.
Oh.
The one of the legends is that it was an army that was escaping its enemies, and it went into the temple seeking shelter, and the god Karnimata, or a goddess Karnimata, saved them but turned them all into rats, and that's who they are still there in the temple. You mentioned it before, but in some parts of the world, rats are eaten, which I don't know. Still, yeah. Oh. There's like 89 rodent species around the world are still eaten.
Oh.
And like in Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, parts of the Philippines, in the Vietnam, apparently parts of Vietnam, they'll trap field rats, and then they'll clean them, and then the meat is smoked, fried, grilled, or boiled.
Mm-hmm.
And supposedly it tastes like rabbit. Which
really? Rabbit's a little gamey for me. It's a little gamey.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't like the rabbit.
It's been a while since I've had rabbit. I mean, growing up, we had a lot of rabbit. You know,
from hunting or
yeah. It's a lot of work, a rabbit. I think.
For not a lot of a lot. Yeah, a lot of work for not much.
Yeah, but I don't know. If you got to eat, you got to eat.
If you're living off the land, you're living off the land. I get that. All bets are off.
It's something like, you put it in terms of something I can understand, like, it tastes like squirrel, or it tastes like rabbit. All right, I could maybe do it.
Let's just become vegetarian. We all should just become vegetarian.
Let's see. In northeast India, the Adi tribe celebrates Unyang Aran, which is the start of their New Year's Spring Festival, on March 7th, which is coming up. If you want if you want to celebrate like they do, the Adi tribe does, by eating rat meat, which includes a stew made of rat stomach, intestines, livers, testes, all boiled together with legs and tails.
That's not right. That's like the menudo of rat menudo.
I love menudos.
I do too.
But you put that in, again. You put it in the terms I love. So certainly
menudo will. You're hungover and boom, that stuff will take you right home. But seriously, with all the rats, why do we have to use every piece of it like the buffalo? You know what I mean? Just throw that stuff away. There's plenty more rats. You don't have to do something with the stomach or the testes. That's just not, no. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
I'm judging that.
But you spice it up with chili and ginger, and suddenly it's like, okay, all right.
I could eat you with enough chili and ginger.
So in Yaoundé, Cameroon, they also they eat cane rats that are like out in the sugar cane, I guess, or in the cane fields. And they say it tastes like
chicken,
like slowly cooked pork shoulder.
Ooh,
hardly anybody said it. Yeah, hardly anybody said it tasted
shoulder.
like chicken. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
What's the weirdest thing? You've been to Africa, or traveled around the world.
Yes.
What's the weirdest thing you've eaten, do you think?
I ate a chicken leg, a chicken foot once.
Yeah.
I ate something. Oh God, what kind of blood was it? It was like this gelatin, but it was made out of blood, and that was in China. I can't remember what kind of blood it was. I've eaten some weird stuff. I've eaten Rocky Mountain oysters.
Oh, did you?
Which are Bowles balls.
Bowles balls or moles balls? I was thinking
but I've eaten a bull ball.
Yeah.
I've eaten those. It was deep fried though, and I stand by my belief that you could eat anything that's deep fried, and anything.
Yeah,
you deep fry a turd, it'll taste fine.
We'll have to try that on a future episode. We'll have a little. What is it? It's deep fried. What is it?
I've eaten insects. I've eaten some insects. What about you? What's the weirdest thing you've ever eaten?
I think it was in Chicago. The food's not related to Chicago, but it was in Chicago. And a friend of ours, I can't remember her name right now. It slips on my mind. But she had been to Africa, and she had just come back from Africa. And before she left, she had picked up a bag of dried grub worms.
Ooh.
And it was just in like a Ziploc bag. It was like going to Sprouts or something, and you just kind of I guess you go to the market and you just get a handful of grub worms.
Yeah.
And we were all playing cards, and she said, like, who wants to eat a grub worm? And nobody did, but I was like, when will I ever have a chance to eat a grub worm or not?
Mm-hmm.
And so she got it out. It was big. It was like, it looked like a cigar stuffed with pencil shavings.
No.
I mean, like a cigar stub, I guess. It was like about 3 inches long.
Jesus. Oh my God. That's much meatier than I thought they were little.
Yeah. Dried the same way. I bit into it, and it did. It tasted like a cigar with. It actually tasted like a cigar with pencil shavings.
It looked like it and tastes like it. Yeah. It's a good source of protein.
The bad thing is about that story, I was sober at that time. I'd already quit drinking. So there was like no excuse for it. And I couldn't forget it. It just stayed in my mouth for
days.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So let's move on to just some history of the rat and human interaction. Usually people are upset about the you mentioned the diseases, but also rats cause a lot of damage to grains, a lot of damage to structures like wiring, for example. They chew the wiring and start buildings on fire.
Yeah, and they chew cables in cars. Like they get into cars and damage cars.
We had in Santa Fe, the deer mice caught our car on fire.
God damn!
They had gone in there and like chewed the wires and then made a nest out of all the, dried twigs and stuff up on our inside the car. And Mary went to go get her hair done or something, and the car caught on fire. So it was awful.
Wow.
During the Middle Ages, rats were associated with witches. Probably because anytime there was a plague or disease or something, people thought witches were doing it, and then they'd also see the rat there at the same time, so that's how they got associated with it.
Interesting.
And then for some reason, it's rats became kind of the metaphor people would use for any unwanted types of people. For example, it became like a symbol of like these migrations of people that you didn't want or whatever. So again, like going to like the Nazis would use a lot of rat metaphors for what they consider to be unwanted people. For example, like Jews or gypsies or something. And you still see even now, I think, when you see some, obviously from certain perspectives, but you see people talk about immigrants, for example, and they use the same sort of metaphor. They're using the rat metaphor, like, oh, it's just waves of them and they're destroying everything.
A scourge. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And it's kind of this idea of a collective, the reproduction and the collective destruction that they, and so rats are very powerful. It's a very powerful symbol for us, I think, subconsciously. And I was also reading an article where they were talking about like people trying to get rid of pigeons, for example. And, so pigeons are a problem as well in certain parts of the country and cities.
Yep.
And what they always try to do to get people against pigeons is they're rats with wings, for example. You know what I mean? True. So it's, again, like the rat is like our benchmark for how loathsome a creature can be,
it's so deeply ingrained into our psychic, lizard brain that this is the thing that steals my food and runs around on me, and at night you can't catch it. Must be, I get that. Associated with vampires. Vampires can turn into rats.
Yeah, remember in Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula, remember there's that scene where Dracula turns into a bunch of rats in the closet or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah. Ooh. So there's something subconscious for that for us, I think. And then you mentioned just now about they're taking our food. I think maybe that's like the the kind of historic or prehistoric fear that we have is that they're taking our food. And I read in 1858 there was a guy named James Rodwell wrote a book about the rat. And he was English, and he wrote about it. And he said that rats were, quote, eating into the very foundation of British prosperity. So in other words, it's like he hated rats too, which again, I completely agree. Yeah. And then you had, like during this Middle Ages, you had the Pied Piper of Hamelin. Remember?
I wondered when you would get to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Were you ever in a production of that? I think they made that into like children.
Yeah, never was in it. But it's such a crazy story of this guy coming in and leading them all out. And he kind of tricks them, doesn't he? He's kind of a trickster in some of the
they don't want to, they try to not pay him. And so he's
that's
okay,
right.
And I'm going to come get all the kids.
That's right. Yeah, he takes the kids.
Yeah, I think doesn't he he plays the flute and gets all the kids to leave or something.
Yeah,
takes all the kids out. So, in the 16th century in Autun, France, rats were accused and actually prosecuted for eating up the barley crop, and they were threatened with excommunication for what they were doing.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And there was a guy by the name of Bartholomew Chassanet. He was a lawyer, was hired to defend the rats. So he's like a public defense attorney for the rats.
Holy, why? I don't understand. It's just like, was it just to show people that they were doing something about it?
Right.
Because they had no real way to deal with the problem.
Right. And there's a history of humans prosecuting animals for doing things. Like you can go in and read through history. Like, we're prosecuting a pig for getting out of its pen and eating all of our, food or something like that. There's a whole history of that. But Chassanet actually, he was successful. His defense was, first of all, there's rats all over the place. So you can't really know which rat was responsible for eating up the food.
Right.
And secondly, he said, it's too far because the rats were served with a summons to appear at the trial. And he was like, they're so far away, it would take them forever, and they're afraid of being eaten by cats. So you can't prosecute them because they have a right of appeal for not being able to safely come. Yeah. And he won. He won that. And then, I read where, 20 years later, he tried that same defense on a human, and they were like, the judge was like, oh no, he's guilty.
So they won? The rats won the case?
They won the case, yeah, because he said they couldn't actually, they were too afraid to show up to give their side of the case.
Oh my God, we are ridiculous. Human beings are it's just insanity on top of insanity.
Yeah, yeah. There's other things in the instances in the Middle Ages where people would write up notices to the rats saying, rat, please get out of my house. And then you stuff it into a hole, where the rats were. And the idea was that the rat was supposed to read that and get the idea to move on.
So is this like magic kind of stuff, like witchcraft? Or is this like they literally thought the rat would unwrap it and read it? And
yeah, I don't think it's witchcraft, because they said that what they would do is they would put grease on the little piece of paper so that that would attract the rat to come over and read it.
Oh my God. So they were feeding the rat to get him to read the note to not eat their food.
Yeah.
Man.
Just like, please, just lay it on the line. Just talk to him.
I understand all of this, because in the end, it's like there's nothing we will never eradicate them. You know, and so it's like, well, how do we deal with something like that?
Give us a sense of that we're doing something. That's what you're saying.
Something, we're powerless. So how do we feel better about that?
In Ireland, in the Elizabethan age, there was supposed to be the idea was that poets could rhyme a rat to death, meaning you would have a rhyming. You would just give them a good poem, and that would cause them to die.
You gotta love the Irish. That's fantastic. I love that.
And there was also, they say, if you pounded on a drum, rhythmically on a drum, and you gave them a poem, that would drive the rats out.
Wow.
And And I kind of, having lived in Venice with the drum circle every weekend, I kind of understand.
You'll drive everything out. Nobody wants a drum circle except the people in the drum circle.
Right. When you're in it, it's great. But when you're outside, just like, hey, I got to go to work tomorrow, and you just hear that rhythmic. So I kind of understand how that works. I don't think it's the rhyming so much. But there apparently but most of the references I could find to people actually, rhyming rats to death were people that weren't Irish. So I don't know if this was a true thing or if this was just something that was, the Irish. Because, for example, Shakespeare and As You Like It, there's a line where Rosalind is thinking about Orlando. Orlando's left a poem for her, and she loves the poem. And she says, I was never so berhymed since Pythagoras' time. That I was an Irish rat, which I can hardly remember. So that's what she's referring to, is that it was...
the rhyming of the rats, the rhyming the rats away. That's fantastic.
And
As
Ben
You
Jonson,
Like It, not the most popular play. You don't really? See that one. As You Like. I mean, it's up there. I guess.
Were you ever in it? Did you ever do any Shakespeare?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've done some Shakespeare. God, it sucks. Oh, it's so hard. It's so hard. I'm just not talented enough. It's just, oh my God, those people, those Shakespearean actors are the real deal, man.
Yeah.
To make sense out of that.
Did you have did you have to learn
Yes. Yeah.
And
in some case, you get to understand it and you use there's dictionaries and stuff and you find the meaning in it and that's how you remember it. But still.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just, and everybody knows it. So if you screw it up, everybody knows. There are people out there who know every goddamn line.
I always love when you hear somebody from England does it, and it sounds like somebody speaking doing it.
Yeah,
always,
that's amazing.
I love it. But it's like, it always seems like in not all the time, but in America a lot, you'll hear somebody doing a Shakespearean part, and they're just reading it. It doesn't sound natural. Nobody's talking. It's just reading it like it was a poem or something.
It's so true.
Another thing, in Robinson Crusoe is actually based on a real guy named Alexander Selkirk, who was he was left on an island by his crew. He was marooned back in the I think it was in the 1600s or 1700s. And Selkirk in his journal talks about the island that they left him on was filled with rats. And he would they would come and nibble at his toes and his clothes and everything.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. He said it was awful. And he was there for 4 years of rats just harassing him.
You're not going to come back the same. That's it.
I know. He just never slept quite the same after that.
Oh, God.
And Daniel Defoe, when he wrote Robinson Crusoe, left out the rats. There's no rats on there.
Yeah.
And they said it was just so awful. Yeah, it was so awful that you could never get past that,
Oh, God.
In the 1850s, there was a rat catcher in London named Jack Black.
Hey!
I know.
The actor.
And he wore an oilskin belt with figures of rats on it. He was supposed to be the best rat catcher in London. And he would catch them to kill them, get rid of them for people. Or the ones that kind of had nice color, for example, the ones that kind of fancy rats, he would keep and breed them. So they think a lot of our fancy rats that we have now, including white rats used in medical research, they think kind of go back to Jack Black.
Oh,
the rat
my
catcher.
God. Wow.
Yeah.
God, we should do a movie about Jack Black and get Jack Black to play Jack Black.
Yeah, just rats.
Hey, nobody's seen that. None of our listeners. Come on. I thought it first.
And the other thing he did was he would catch them for the rat pits in the taverns. Ooh. And that's where they would have rat pit. You would throw a bunch of rats in a pit with a terrier, like a dog.
Oh, boy.
And people would bet to see how many rats the dog could kill in a certain amount of time.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Those are our for if you ever, for anybody that's nostalgic for what it was like in the 1800s.
Yeah.
I recommend reading Henry Mayhew's book. It's like the Poor of London or something. And it's just awful. It just tells you how awful life was in the old days.
Well, I mean, even out here in the Wild West, there was a reason everybody was drunk. It was horrible.
Yeah.
It was horrid.
Yeah. Yeah, he talks about, just real quick, like just the jobs. He goes around, he just went around in 1850 and talked to people in London, and just the jobs that people had to do to stay alive. Like there were people that would just go down in the sewers, and your job was just, you would just kind of go through all the crap and just see if anybody had dropped some money in there or something.
My God. Oh,
it's your job.
That's kind of what it's like to be in the entertainment industry. I mean, it's not that far.
I always love how you bring it home. It's just make it understandable. Something we can believe in. Something we can identify with. So then just kind of quickly to sum up on a few things. In 1986, a couple of anthropologists and psychologists took a look at like the rat problems in America and just how people deal with them. And what was kind of funny about that study was people always think that rats are there in their neighborhood due to somebody else's behavior. So it's always, you always say, well, that my neighbor never throws away their trash or something like that. And so it's always, they found that it was always somebody else that was responsible for the rat problem.
Of course. Yeah.
But then again, like we were talking about in the Pacific Palisades, it really was due to somebody else.
Oh,
so you
my
don't know.
God. Well, there's a sort of parallel story with there's a new mosquito breed that's kind of infiltrated Los Angeles. One of the things about Los Angeles is that there were no bugs. That was one of the nice things about LA.
Yeah.
And no mosquitoes. But now a little tiny black breed of mosquitoes that are difficult to kill and bite you like 6 times. Supposedly has come over. I mean, it's here, but that it's come over from Asia, and that it's always from Asia, a boat from Asia,
Yeah. Have you seen them? Do they?
Oh yeah, it's ruined LA. It's just horrid. It's over. It's over.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah. Have to put screens on your windows now.
Yeah. Right? Screens, and everybody has to spray, and they just have to live like everybody else.
Yeah,
but it's nice year round, so they're here year round, except for a few months in the winter.
Wow. So then another person who had done some studies on rats and animals, she talked about, her name's Harriet Ritvo, and what her point is culturally we always think that humans are in charge of everything. Like in the book of Genesis, the humans were supposed to have been given dominion over the animals. And then she says we have this fear of the beast, whether it be the beast within us or the beast without. But when it comes to rats, and this is, I don't think she didn't talk. She talked about Genesis and everything. But I think when it comes to rats, it's like I think we feel subconsciously we don't have dominion over these animals.
Right. We can't stop them. There's too many.
Right. And they come into like our urban environment. Like we push the large animals like bears, P-22 we didn't push out, but we've pushed out the large animals to where we hardly ever see them in our home. But like the rats still can get in. You're in New York in a high rise, and a rat can still get up there through your toilet and get into your apartment.
Yeah. I mean, they have dominion over us is the thing we don't want to admit.
Yeah. It's awful. So just kind of summing up here, I'm going to close with a little poetry, if that's all right. We've been talking about the poetry.
Oh, we're stepping things up a notch on this show. That's fantastic. Is this something you've written?
No. This is by Robert Burns, the Scottish poet.
Mm-hmm.
And it's To a Mouse. That's the name of the poem. But I always, as I read it, I was like, this could be how I feel about
rats
as well.
Yes,
and this is the famous.
And you have
poem.
a lot of a lot of Scottish blood in your veins, so this is perfect.
It appealed to me down in the DNA.
Yes.
Again, this is Hymn to a Mouse by Robert Burns.
Okay.
Actually, I won't read it in the Scottish dialect.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. I can. There's a plug-in here that I can do after in post.
Okay. You can go online and see. You can hear people from Scotland read it. I'm not going to do it, namely because we've already done a show about people doing accents.
Yeah, it's pretty horrible.
Okay, so here we go. To a mouse, or in this case, to a hypothetical rat.
Mm-hmm.
Sleek, tiny, timorous, cowering beast. Why such panic in your breast? Why dash away so quick, so rash, in a frenzied flash, when I would be loath to run after you with a murderous plough staff? So he's out working in this field. I'm not done with it, but he's out working in this field. He digs up some dirt and he sees a mouse just take off. And he's like, why are you so afraid of me? Okay. Yeah. So the next thing he says is, I'm truly sorry man's dominion has broken nature's social union and justifies that bad opinion which makes you startle when I'm your poor earthborn companion and fellow mortal. So again, he's like, hey, I'm sorry we've kind of invaded your space, but I'm right there with you, brother. You know what I mean? He's like, hey, we're both mortals. So I kind of get that too with a rat. Like, I understand, like, hey, you're just doing your rat thing.
Live. Yeah.
We're both there, you know. And then he says, there's a lot more stanzas, but
Thank you for that.
But this is the one. My mouse friend, you are not alone. Improving foresight may be vain. The best laid plans of mice and men. This is where that line comes from this poem. So now if anybody ever says it, like, what poem does it? Best laid plans of mice and men. It's from To a Mouse by Robert Burns. Go oft awry and leave us only grief and pain for promised joy. So again, he's kind of this idea of like, he understands the mouse. You know what I mean? He understands why the mouse is afraid.
Yeah. Why can't we all live in concert? Why can't we all just get along?
Right. Exactly.
And we can't. Rats must die. Rats must die.
Yeah, I mean, in conclusion, I would say I would love to have the whole Ratatouille experience, you know, have a rat sit under my hats and pull my hair and teach me how to make gourmet meals, but I can't do it. I can't do it.
No, I totally freak out and have to kill that thing in mediamente.
Yeah, I've tried to, you know, I've tried to be the bigger person especially after reading so much about them. I thought this would change my feeling about rats, but it didn't. It didn't. I'm right back where I started.
I had a rat in my house that I couldn't catch. Very smart rat. We tried different traps. He couldn't get him, and I noticed my wife freaked out and said that he went up this hole, and I found out, oh my God, he's going up this weird hole. And so I was like, I know how I'll get him. I'll put sticky stuff down, you know, the stick traps, and I got him. But that is the worst way to kill. Oh my God, then you have to take it out and it's still alive, and oh my God, it was the worst experience.
Yeah,
it was the worst.
Yeah,
I mean, it was worse.
He was still alive. Yeah, he was still alive. There,
still alive, and now he's all glued to that thing. And I'm like, should I kill him? But I can't. I don't know. I put him in a plastic grocery bag and tied it real tight, hoping he would suffocate. That's all I could
but there was
think of.
probably enough air in there. You could live for weeks.
No,
with
God,
little lungs
I feel so terrible about it. I feel terrible.
Yeah, in her book, Fuzz, Mary Roach at the very end talks about how she's trying to come to terms with kind of a more accommodating, role with rodents, or like our interaction with rodents being more accommodating, to where you don't kill them. You know, you'll never get rid of, like you mentioned, you'll never get rid of these things. And so she talks about like, well, you know, if we could come to more accommodation with them and kind of living in peace, so to speak, maybe that would be a good way that we could interact with other humans as well. I completely get that.
But no.
I'm not there yet.
No.
It's
never.
me.
Never. Yeah.
So
they must die. All of them.
Yeah. So I think in conclusion, I have to say to the rats, you know, look, I understand this relationship, but it's me. It's not you.
Yeah. But we're going to kill you. You're dead. You're done.
Yeah.
It's me, not you. Oh, thank you so much. This was really wonderful, wonderful. I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about rats.
Yeah, it's fascinating. You can go online. You can Google ratting in England with terriers, and you can see
Jack Black.
People are still out there. People are still out there ratting right now. You can see the actual current footage of people ratting, kind of give you an idea of what it was like to be in the rat pits back in the 1800s. So, all right, John. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for listening. This is human number 2, John Lehr.
And this is human number 1, John McCray. And thank you again for joining us. And we will see you along the journey to self-discovery.
Mm-hmm. But we're gonna touch the walls as we go along the way.
All right, John. Talk to you later.